Oof, grass, the devil's lettuce. It goes by many names. But today we're going to dive deep into the evolution of people who choose to indulge. People who open up their CB1 receptors and let the green goblin gas take over. From a potential puffer's first time, all the way up to the dreaded status of Benjamin Zombie. Told the doctor I'm a healthy kid, I smoke broccoli. Now, that line definitely isn't medical advice. Sure, medical cannabis exists, but smoking anything isn't great for your lungs. And let's be honest, Kodak Black probably isn't sparking up to treat back pain or ADHD. Anyway, let's break down the evolution of a smoker in a scientific and educational way, from that first potentially hitting a Benjamin 24/7 and why you really don't want it to get that far. We'll also look at the tipping point when shifts from a controlled though unhealthy little vice to a full-blown mental addiction. Plus, we'll ask how much can be a part of your lifestyle without becoming destructive. Kind of like alcohol. Sure, it can be harmful, but if you're just having a few drinks once a week, who am I to judge? Everyone's journey is different, but there's one thing we all share: the first time. Every master starts here. Whether it was a planned, yo, let's try weed moment with your best friend, or a casual, why not? The first smoke sets the tone for your evolution. That first experience matters. Some people try it once, geek out way too hard, and never touch it again. Others feel nothing and keep experimenting until it hits, and some enjoy the buzz right away and decide they want more. For me, at first nothing, then a couple more puffs and I was super high for like 30 seconds, then back to normal. Everyone's different, but if you had a positive first experience, odds are you'll climb higher on the evolution ladder, which brings us to the casual smoker. Here's the first real step. You're smoking knowingly now, maybe on weekends, at a party, or chilling in your buddy Steve's man cave. You're not sure why exactly. Maybe it's because weed chills you out without the hangover of alcohol, or because it makes the world feel just a little more magical. At this point, weed isn't routine. You don't have your own stash, you're treated like an event. And the best part, you remember every high. 5 hours of Smash Bros and a family-sized pizza? Legendary. Wandering the suburbs baked? Iconic. Honestly, this stage is the sweet spot. Casual smoking is usually less harmful than drinking every weekend. Plus, it makes it so that almost every high is a memorable night. But chances are, eventually you'll evolve into the routine toker. Now, you're smoking more regularly. Not just with friends, but at the end of the day. You light up before a walk, chores, or just relaxing. You know it's bad for your lungs and that it makes you lazy, but in your mind, the juice is worth the squeeze. By now, you're learning the basics. Strains, THC percentages, different methods. Maybe you've got some papers in a tray. You know a bowl hits harder and faster for those stare at the wall eating ramen nights, while a joint gives you a smoother, longer high for a walk around the park. At this stage, the high starts to feel less like a novelty and more like a tool. You can use it for deep convos, crazy observations, or even philosophy hour with your buddies. Where once you were just giggling at Shrek and demolishing Ben & Jerry's, now you might be debating the political and economic state of the world. Jaden Smith would be proud. You're not quite rocking a tinfoil hat ranting about Mark Zuckerberg being a reptile, but you wouldn't be mad if someone else brought it up, which means you're creeping towards the casual stoner. This is where the mindset really shifts. You're no longer just an evening toker, sometimes you're sparking up during the day too. It's becoming part of your everyday life. At this point, you've probably Googled weed's medical benefits. You've read that it might help with anxiety, ADHD, or stress, and suddenly you're asking yourself, am I smoking because I like it or because I need it? Maybe you've always been more prone to enjoying it. Maybe it's your way of easing anxiety. You don't know for sure, but one day you're packing your 5th bowl in 2 hours and your homie looks at you like, yo bro, maybe you should cool it on the za. This is a pivotal moment. Your response determines everything. Do you laugh it off and actually cool it? Or do you lean back, exhale, and drop the undefeated line, bro, it's low-key medical. If you pick the second answer, congratulations, you're on the fast track to the next stage, the daily stoner. This is a stage where things flip. Back in the casual stoner days, you smoked during the day occasionally. Now it's the other way around. You occasionally don't. Wake and bakes have become a sacred ritual. You roll out of bed with all the weight of life on your shoulders, school, your job, your investment account, and instead of tackling them sober, you think, yeah, I'll deal with all this, but I'll do it high. Alright, let's see. Investment account, I'll check the stocks tomorrow. Job? Shit, I'll just call in sick. School? Well, I'd open my laptop, but the battery's dead. Guess I'll charge it while I go play Borderlands 4. Wow, what a productive morning. Got everything done in 3 minutes. That's the illusion of the daily stoner. You convince yourself, yeah, I wake and bake, but I still get stuff done. And technically you're not wrong, you do get things done, but weed warps your definition of productive. Something that would have taken you 15 minutes sober now takes an hour, and by the end of it, you feel like you just worked a 12-hour shift. Progress is still happening, just at a snail's pace. The bigger issue, your tolerance is climbing to skyscraper levels, because, well, you don't always aim to get obliterated during the day, you still blow yourself to orbit at night. Combine that with a dulled work ethic and suddenly you're spending record high amounts of money on weed while earning less, because let's face it, you're prioritizing a chill lifestyle over hustle. And if you keep leaning into that chill side, sliding further and further down, you'll wake up one day and realize you've officially crossed into full-blown stoner. Water versus weed. Which one's more important? The obvious answer is water, but the fact that you hesitated, even for a millisecond, and thought, wait, no weed? Yeah, that's the sign. You've officially evolved into the full-blown stoner. This is where my own experience starts to taper off, because I never made it this far myself, but from what I've seen, the difference between a daily stoner and a full-blown stoner is subtle, yet massive. The daily stoner still believes they're enhancing life with weed, using it to make something boring bearable or something fun even better. At this stage though, that illusion is gone. Here, being high is the baseline, the normal state. No more, oh shit, I'm too high moments. No more novelty, no more magic. What used to feel like a rocket launch now just feels like existing. And while that might sound chill, it comes with a heavy trade-off. The wonder of the za has faded, the excitement that made it special is gone, and in its place is a quiet dependency. Weed stops being a semi-unhealthy vice you choose and becomes the silent addiction you can't imagine life without. This right here is the turning point. Some people never get past it. Some people catch themselves and scale back, but if you don't, there's one final grim stage of evolution waiting ahead, and it's a place you really don't want to end up. The Benjamin Zombie. Wake up, Benjamin. Eat breakfast, Benjamin. Clock in at school or work, Benjamin. Light up again, Benjamin. Repeat! Life becomes a loop, a hazy carousel that never stops spinning. The world feels like it's moving in slow motion, like you're stuck on a never-ending train ride with foggy windows, and the destination, nowhere good. Usually a one-way track toward burnout, paranoia, or full-blown psychosis if you don't slam the brakes, brah. By this stage, there's no wonder in weed anymore. No spark, no giggles, no creativity. Honestly, you don't even like it anymore. It's not fun, it's just what you do, like brushing your teeth or scrolling your phone. It's become automatic, a reflex. You smoke not to elevate, but to avoid the emptiness of sobriety. And that's the saddest part. The plant that once made music sound richer, food taste better, and sunsets glow brighter has been stripped of all its charm. Now it's just fuel for a fading engine. You're not living with weed anymore, you're surviving through it. At this point, you're not a stoner, not even a daily stoner. You've devolved into the Benjamin Zombie, permanently hazed, always chasing the next puff, yet never really getting anywhere. But hey, you can always just cool it off the za and get back to where it was fun again, like being a casual. Moderation is key, remember that. Zaza myths. Grass cap, lettuce slice, call it what you want. Anyway, today we're going to go over the most common misconceptions about the magic green plant, which I'm willing to bet that you've fallen for at least once. Yes, you, Mr. Bro, this pack tested at 38%, so I'm basically entering another dimension. Okay, if you say so. So, how is it? Well, I'm high, I guess. Mouth is really dry though. It kinda tastes like dirt. Certified exotic! So, for the sake of education and science, we are going to go over every Zaza myth from funny to dumb to dangerous, so the populace may have a better understanding of the magic green plant and avoid the risks they were subject to before. Whether you're a seasoned lettuce enjoyer or a rookie roller, these myths have been floating around since the dawn of the J, and even though people are a lot more informed these days, you'd be surprised at how many people still believe that higher THC percentage equals stronger high. This is probably the most common rookie mistake in the lettuce community. People walk into dispensaries like they're buying a protein shake. And what's the strongest thing you got? 35%? Give me that! Sure, percentage does play a role in how high you get, it's kind of the main character, but the number on the jar doesn't tell the whole story. You could blaze something labeled 33% and feel absolutely nothing but dry mouth and disappointment. Meanwhile, something with 17% might have you reconsidering your life choices mid-snack. Why? Because there's more to the plant than just a number. How it was grown, how fresh it is, what it smells like, all that matters. Some packs hit because they're balanced, not because they're built like a calculator. Also, quick reality check, those percentages not always real. Growers know people chase high numbers, so they send the frostiest, most photogenic nug to the lab. They don't send the potentially dry, crusty stuff you actually get in the jar. So what you're really buying is lab-tested optimism. Think of it like this, choosing based on percentage is like choosing music based on how loud it is. Just because it's loud doesn't mean it's good. Then again, if you have a favorite song and you play it louder, it's gonna hit better, if you get what I'm saying. Usually, you want something that doesn't just blast you, you want something that actually feels right. So yeah, the number matters a little to the extent that a 6% pack is going to be mellow and anything between 15 to 25% is going to hit normal. But beyond that, it's just marketing. So don't let it trick you into thinking you're buying magic, otherwise you'll keep paying $60 for mid in a shiny bag. Which next one is something I believed in myself up until just a few months ago. Indica equals chill, equals energy. Put you in the couch, bro. Get you creative and energized. Yeah, not exactly, at least anymore. That whole equals sleepies equals Zoom thing is Zaza astrology. It sounds deep until you realize it's mostly vibes and guesswork. Back in the day, indica and sativa meant something botanically, like plant shape and how tall it grows. But now, after decades of crossbreeding, everything is basically a smoothie. You're not smoking a pure sativa. You're smoking some hybrid mutant with 6 parents and a confusing childhood. You might get an that it makes you vacuum your room at 3 a.m. or but it has you melted into the couch watching YouTube documentaries about ants. It's not about the label, it's about how your brain reacts to whatever is actually in the flower. Also, most of these strain labels are just marketing now. The same lemon blaster you buy in LA might be a completely different plant than the lemon blaster from your guy in Detroit. But they both swear it's sativa because the bag is yellow and has lightning bolts on it. To be fair though, you do have a higher probability of getting a chiller vibe with indica and more of an active vibe with sativa, just that it's not always the case, and a lot of times an indica strain can make you just as productive as with sativa. A lot of it is also just in your head. Like, if you're a daily smoker and smoke sativa during the day and indica at night, you're gonna feel like you're more productive with sativa because every time you use it, you actually plan on doing stuff, compared to indica where you plan on, well, just hanging around. But this next one might be the most dangerous misconception out of them all, and that is, you can't overdose on grass. Ah yes, the ultimate stoner defense mechanism. You can't overdose on za, bro. It's impossible. It's natural. Chill out. Technically, yeah, you're not gonna flatline from lettuce. There's no grass version of the he took too many and never woke up story. But let's not pretend you can't go way past the point of good vibes into I'm dying, call my mom territory. You can green out, you can white out, you can throw up, panic, forget your name, think you're in a dream, and try to call 911 on yourself using a TV remote. But sure, not an overdose, just a deeply humbling spiritual reset. It usually goes like this. You take an edible and it's not hitting, so you take more. Then about 45 minutes later, your soul leaves your body and watches you pet your wall for emotional support. Congratulations, you're not dead, but you are definitely not okay. So no, you won't overdose in the technical sense, but if your definition of overdose includes uncontrollable sweating, time dilation, thinking you're stuck in a loop, and trying to breathe manually, then yes, you very much can overdose on za. Especially with long-term heavy use, which can cause psychosis. So just because it's a plant and there's that famous fact of like, oh, you need to smoke 200 pounds of za to overdose, doesn't mean you shouldn't be mindful of your consumption, which kind of takes us to grass makes you lazy. My teacher once told me, boy, you smoke too much of that lettuce, you'll never do anything with your life. Meanwhile, there are programmers, artists, chefs, and athletes out here doing their taxes while baked off their mind on something called
purple monkey dirt nugs.
Let's be clear, za doesn't make you lazy, you make you lazy. Grass just lowers the volume on your internal monologue enough for you to enjoy doing nothing. If you were already a couch potato before, sure, lettuce might just butter you up and serve you to the couch gods, but some people take a hit and immediately get the sudden urge to deep clean their bathroom or organize their sock drawer by emotional trauma. The truth is, how you react depends on your brain, your tolerance, and whether you just hit something calming or smoked a strain called Nightmare Jetpack. Also, not all laziness is bad. Sometimes the reason people seem lazy after smoking is because their brain finally isn't on fire and they're just chilling for the first time in days. That's not laziness. That's peace, baby. So no, ZA doesn't make you lazy. Being a human in late-stage capitalism does. Grass might just make it more comfortable to stop pretending you're okay with it. It's just a plant, so it's always safe. This one's popular with people who think putting a leaf emoji next to anything instantly makes it healthy. Bro, it's natural. It's from the earth. You can't get hurt by something nature made. Okay, cool. So are poison ivy, nightshade, and grizzly bears. Nature doesn't care about your vibes. Nature is not your plug. Yes, lettuce is a plant. So is hemlock, so is ayahuasca. That doesn't mean you should roll it up and smoke it every morning like it's a spiritual multivitamin. Natural doesn't mean harmless. It just means it didn't come from a lab this time. Now, for most people, grass is relatively safe, but let's not pretend it's some invincible superfood. You can still develop tolerance, mess up your sleep, get dependent on it to function, have a panic attack mid-cartoon, or blast off into a full psychotic break if you overdo it for too long. And let's be honest, most people aren't smoking pure organic, forest-grown artisanal flower. They're ripping mystery carts from some guy called Seke with a shoebox business model. Even flour itself isn't always clean. It can have mold, pesticides, or be so dry it turns to dust if you breathe on it wrong. So yeah, it's a plant, but that doesn't make it invincible, perfect, or immune to consequences. You could take a salad and turn it into a problem if you tried hard enough. Bottom line, lettuce can be chill, but like anything else, too much of it too often with no self-awareness equals problems. And saying it's natural won't help you when you're halfway through a green out wondering if your dog is judging you. I don't know about you guys, but I can be kind of a straight to the point, don't care how you feel type of guy. But for some reason, when I'm faded, that low-key changes. Like, the ZA seems to make me care more about others and how they feel. Don't get me wrong though, I'm not out here going out of my way to help some grandma cross the street and then run into the nearest blood donation bank where after donating my blood, I volunteer myself at the soup kitchen. It's more like if I wasn't high and was waiting in traffic and an old lady was crossing the street, I think, oh my god, you chose the perfect time to cross the street, didn't you? Now I have to sit here like an idiot. I got to do, woman. Move! Compared to if I was theoretically high. Look at that grandma crossing the street. I wonder where she's going. Probably to see her grandkids. Just wonderful. So yeah, I guess the ZA makes me more inclined to other people's problems in life, whereas if I'm not faded, I seem to focus mostly on my own without taking into account others. But it's not that simple if we're trying to answer the question of, does being high make you a better person? Because another way to look at it is, it just makes you more lazy. Like the example of the grandma crossing the street. What if the difference in reaction is not that of me being just a great all-around guy, but the ZA just making me forget why I was in a rush in the first place? Being annoyed, stressed, nervous, etc., although not nice feelings, are symptoms of doing something out of your comfort zone, and doing something outside that zone is really the only way to get anywhere in life. Think about it. Do you know anyone who is actually successful in anything without frequently being stressed? You probably don't. Well, you might, but that dude is just probably some snobby rich kid who embezzles funds from their dad's yacht maintenance fund into their shitty little company they started with their friends that they only use to make it seem like it's them who's making money, when in reality all they're doing is taking funds from their rich parents and putting them into their pocket and telling everybody I worked for it, but hey, what do I know? Anyway, we've concluded that the ZA can make you a more understanding and better person, but it can also make you a lazy mofo who loses the ability to step outside their comfort zone. So, is it bad? Nah, I mean, not really. As we know, the key to everything in life is moderation. And if practiced correctly, it can help you with literally everything, not just the Zaza. My point here is that there is a time and place for everything, so there is no real answer to if the Zaza makes you a better person, because it all depends on the context of the situation. So if you're always faded and sit around and eat pizzas and watch the Shaolin Chronicles all day, but then say your philosophy is, bruh, I'm all about peace and love. I don't wanna be like you, stressing out all the time. I chase tranquility. Your argument is not valid to anyone who is trying to achieve something in life besides tranquility. But then again, it goes the other way around as well. So a 24/7 stressed out, always working, never resting dude would say something like, if you want to make it anywhere in life, you can never rest. You gotta outwork everyone, even if that means drinking 6 energy drinks a day, vaping 24/7 to stop the disease of feeling tired, and you gotta sleep a maximum of 4 hours a day to maximize your work time. And obviously, you gotta work out at least 3 hours a day to build that muscle. Like, bro, chill. You might be rich, but what does that matter if you die at 35? Obviously, these are two extremes, both at different far ends of the spectrum, and really, you should try to position yourself somewhere in the middle. There is a time and place for everything, especially for the green magic plant, because if you start frequently using it, it really does take your edge away, and if your goal for life isn't only tranquility, then that is definitely a bad thing. Then again, if you're an uber-focused person who finds it very hard to relax even when they should be, then the Zaza can definitely help you in that department and give you a well-deserved break. And dare I say, it can even make you a better person. Or at least make it seem like it to the people around you, cause in reality, you're the same guy, just on a different planet. For example, here are some everyday situations whilst high versus when you aren't. Number 1, someone asks you to do the laundry, but you're not high. Hey bro, can you please do the laundry? Okay, I will. Versus if you are high, hey bro, can you please do the shh? Of course I'll do the laundry. You did it last time, it's only fair. Second situation, you're stuck in traffic on a sunny day, whilst you're not high. How long is this shit gonna take? I should've just taken the second road. Versus when you are high, ooh, is that a new Porsche? Damn, that guy must be rich. So nice just bathing under the sun in this traffic. Oh shit, I gotta move. Number 3, you're in the cinema and you're high. This is awesome. Versus you're not high, this is lame. Okay, the last one didn't really add anything to the video. I just really like being high in the cinema. Anyway, I hope you learned something from this video and maybe achieved tranquility. Mushrooms are a lot like that one friend who is always talking and it kind of annoys you, but at the same time you love him cause you know he's always keeping it real with you. So if you are fiending for a third eye awakening on some Dragon Ball Super shit, you better be ready for the shroomy shrooms to take you through the depths of your unconscious, where it will dig out and highlight questions about your very fabric of existence like, who am I? Why are we here? Do I like men? But anyway, that doesn't happen the very instant you eat the shrooms. In fact, the stages of a mushroom trip are so different, each one of them could be considered a substance of their own. But the first stage everyone experiences is Stage 1, Ingestion/come up. Right after consuming those Mario power-ups, you might feel your stomach twist and turn a bit, as your body is signaling to you, this shit was not food, wasn't it? But thankfully, it's usually pretty minor and goes away after a few minutes. While waiting for the shrooms to kick, you probably stare at a bunch of random objects hoping to find some type of moving pattern, cause that's what shrooms are supposed to do, right? Well, yeah, kind of, but after 30 minutes goes by and you're still staring at the wall with no sign of visual hallucinations, you probably think to yourself, man, I got scammed, didn't I? But then you start really thinking about it. Are you feeling something? And then you think about the next thing, and the next thing, and then you might laugh at something completely random like this picture of SpongeBob, and boom, you now realize they weren't duds, and you're about to go on a journey, bro. Also, after all this, you probably move on to Stage 2, Questions that lead to more questions. You're at the point now where you know the shroom's kicking, but you don't really see any visuals except for maybe the increased significance of every object, but the main thing is you have started questioning everything you know, but not in a scary way of nothing matters, there is no point. More of a, man, I love hanging out with Charlie. Wait, do I though? What type of person is he actually? He's friendly, but kinda secretive and keeps to himself. What is he keeping to himself? Could he be a totally different person? Am I becoming a better person by hanging out with him? What is going on? So yeah, this stage can be very eye-opening to some, especially if you're the type of person to hang on to problems and worries instead of facing them. Because however hard you try not to think about something, the shrooms won't let you. And although it might seem like that's a bad thing, it's actually not. And you should treat this time of the trip to pinpoint the main questions you would like to receive some type of answers to by the end. Because soon after, you're gonna go to Stage 3. Holy shit. The mushrooms are now almost at full effect, and you're definitely seeing some hallucinations, like moving patterns, disfigured items, wavy hands, etc. But to be honest, that isn't really the main thing, because if you approach this trip with the right mindset, as in you wanted to actually take something with you to the real world afterwards, then currently you are most likely intensely trying to piece together the answers to the questions you highlighted on the previous stage. But it ain't as easy as it seems. It feels like you were constantly on a breakthrough to something really important and significant, but then you lose it and have to start again with the pieces you left off with. But if you stick with it, you'll always figure something out. Maybe not the full picture, but something. Also, you shouldn't blame yourself if you start talking or thinking about something that you feel is very amazing, but then halfway through realize you literally pondering about the implications of the evolution of the Pringles Man logo, bruh. But not to worry, that's the beauty of shrooms. They make you think about everything on a deeper level, and if you can find the correct things to think about through the clutter of Matrix conspiracy theories, you'll still emerge victorious. Speaking about emerging, the next stage is Stage 4. The slow come down. You are now slowly coming down from the shrooms, which is indicated by the fact you don't see as many trippy patterns anymore, but also you're more realistic in your thoughts as well. Also, at this point, you probably aren't bouncing from thought to thought as much anymore and have chosen a definitive couple of things to think about. And with those things, you will find answers, but also a lot of new questions, which can be frustrating, well, until you get to the next and final stage. Stage 5. Journey complete. At this point, you have almost completely came down from the magic, but not really, because although you don't see any hallucinations anymore, you feel more in touch with reality and yourself. The best way I can describe this stage is like it's the fruit of your labor. This is the stage where you've gone through the constant questions and search for answers and come out victorious. Best way I can describe it is like you're high off some Zaza, but with a much clearer head. So this is the perfect time to play some video games, watch a movie, or do really anything you find fun. If you've ever bought from a plug, you probably know about that teeny tiny voice in your head that goes, "What if it's laced, bro?" And although 99% of the time, that's just you being paranoid, the other 1%, it might be warranted. Which brings me to the time I was dead certain the grass I bought was laced. But you know, I still smoked it. The day started like any other. I woke up, ate my Captain Crunch, worked out, made some videos, and now after a productive day, was looking for some za to smoke up and watch some Elon Musk vs Zuckerberg fight breakdown videos. Personally, I got the Reptile King on this one. Anyway, the bad news was, I was out of grass. And even worse, the plug I usually buy from wasn't answering, so I had to get creative. First, I tried to scrounge up a hit from smacking the shit out of my grinders and using a card to move it together like I was about to do a line in the back of the nightclub. But alas, after all my effort, I was left with only a smidgen of a hit that was 50% dust and dirt, so although I really didn't want to do it, I knew I had to start asking around for a new plug. And so I did. And after about 30 minutes, I was given the Snapchat of a seemingly high-level devious criminal, and I concluded that by his Snapchat username, which was free straight money emojis, and I'm guessing he chose this name just so everyone knew. I am a drug dealer and I make a lot of money. I shot him a message reading, "Yo, can I get one?" hoping that he would respond unlike all my other plugs, and just a few minutes later, I was blessed by a message reading, "Yeah, nice." All I needed to do now was ask when and where, which he responded swiftly with an address that was very close. So I hopped in my Urus. Sorry, I have a Lamborghini Urus. Yes, this is a fact. Spread the word, guys. And pulled up on the spot where I was expecting to greet a killer tattoo. Nah, actually, I'm too experienced now. I knew it was gonna be some high school kid. They're the ones who always use emojis for their plug Snapchats. And it was exactly what I thought. A scrawny looking kid with glasses pulled up, dropped the bag in my car, and dipped. Well, I also gave him the money, but nothing really different or alarming had happened during this altercation. As I was driving back home, though, I took a quick little sniffington from the bag, and well, that shit was smelling a bit sus. I can't quite describe the smell cause it did stank like good za. There was just a certain chemically fragrance to it as well. But regardless, I brought that za home, and before I smoked, I did a bit of googling. How to know if your grass is laced? You can tell if your bud is laced by putting it in water and seeing if anything melts out of it. Bruh, ain't no way I'm putting this grass in some goddamn water. Ah, fuck, it seems good to me. So yeah, I didn't really practice a lot of precaution. I mean, worst case scenario, I accidentally smoked crack. But anyway, I loaded up the hit and took a smack dabbly do off that thing. And at first, I couldn't really tell nothing was wrong. I mean, I was on the couch feeling like a medium rare filet mignon, but that's just being baked. Until I suddenly started getting real paranoid for no reason. Like, not paranoid in what if it was laced, but paranoid in... Hey, what the fuck was that? Hello? I'll have you know I'm a certified demon hunting boxing champion, bruh. I'll knock your nun ass out in an instant. Oh, hell nah. And yeah, you saw correctly. This got a grown-ass 6'6" athletic specimen of a man to go under his blanket cause he thought he heard a monster, bruh. And I swear, for the entirety of the night, I was low-key hearing things like I was an inmate in Arkham Asylum or something. So, safe to say the whole mellow me out part was negated by the paranoid demon fearing. At some point though, I got a serious case of the munchies, and I knew I had to leave my safe zone, aka my blanky wanky, and go downstairs to raid the fridge. And so I did, but this fucking dimensional rift grass got me bugging out, bro. I was feeling like I was 7 years old again, afraid of the boogeyman coming to take me away. Thankfully, I was able to tweak my way to 2 hood dogs and a couple of sugar sandwiches. Recipes I developed myself. Watch the video in the top corner if you want to know more. But once I got the food on my plate, I ran back upstairs being real careful not to stay in the darkness for too long. Basically, I was this old Vine video. Worst part was though that this so-called laced grass didn't let me sleep either. Like literally, I almost pulled an all-nighter looking like Golem up in my room. Until at 7 AM, I did finally somehow hit the hay. Anyway, this is the only time I ever actually believed grass to be laced, cause it just seems unprofitable to actually do that shit. But I'm still not sure, it might have just been some mighty paranoid demon grass. I guess we'll never know, cause the experience was awful enough for me to flush that shit down the toilet. RIP 0.8 G's, bruh. And obviously, I removed that new plug from my friends list, cause I'm not trying to be the victim of our town's first supervillain, cause if that shit was indeed laced, no way I'm about to go buy some Joker gas from Dollar Store Heath Ledger again. Imagine you ate a bunch of mushrooms, sat down and waited for them to kick, but as you were waiting, your homie gave you some acid. You sat there a bit longer, and just before everything started coming up, you smoked a massive bowl of some couch lock exotic za, and then boom! It all hits at once. That right there is how I describe DMT to someone who's never heard of it, because instead of gradually ramping up, DMT kicks down your mental door with a sledgehammer made of neon lights and screams. There is no build-up nor gentle come-up. 1 second you're in your room, the next you've launched through the fabric of reality like a screaming missile. You might meet entities that feel more real than your landlord, and they'll communicate in emotions, telepathy, or geometry. Then just as quickly, you're back on your couch like nothing happened, except you're sweaty, humbled, and questioning whether any of this, or anything ever, was real. But that's just DMT, the psychedelic equivalent of being booted out of the universe, given a cosmic PowerPoint presentation in a language your soul barely understands, and then dropped back into your body with only a vague memory and a racing heartbeat. Knowing all that, you might understand why DMT has been one of the few psychedelics I've truly been scared to do. Not because I feared addiction or really any of the usual worries, but because I truly thought that I might not come back from this as the same person. But hey,
if you do it, you will talk to intelligent beings from other dimensions, for real.
Joe Rogan did it, and he seems fine. So, for the sake of education and science, I will be sharing my experience with the king of psychedelics. No wavy hands here, a true out-of-body experience with cosmic figures, ghosts from my past, and an ending that truly left me questioning the reality that I saw versus the reality that I live day to day. But as a disclaimer, do not do anything in this video. It's all just a funny, entertaining, and educational stickman story, and never actually even happens. I am a stickman. Anyway, it all started where I feel like these things usually start. Los Angeles, California, the city of angels and the homeless. I was staying in LA for 1 month, and I was your typical tourist. Benjamin in one hand and a Starbucks coffee in the other, walking on Santa Monica and Venice Beach, observing some of the most unique and, well, weird people I've ever seen. One One guy was walking around with dreadlocks down to his knees and a live parrot hanging around his shoulder. Another smacking 10 blinkers of a pen in front of the metro before going in, sitting down, opening a Nutella jar, and raw dogging the whole thing with his fingers, sitting right next to me, mumbling stuff like, Nutella. Then reaching my destination to play street ball, only to be picked up by a dude who had allegedly made $200 on the boulevard that day by doing backflips for money and then spending said money on his preferred combination of highs to play basketball. Shrooms and coke. Why I'm telling you all this is because I'm trying to get you on the vibes I was on for the month I stayed in LA. Normality became warped. Is this guy trying to rob me, or is he just tweaking off crack? Being in situations like that nearly every day really warped my fear detector parameters. Whereas the first week, seeing a bunch of fent fiends camped out in tents staring frightened me, on week 4 I just waved at them and smiled while ripping some Cali exotic frontal cortex destroying Zaza. But through my days of journeying around LA, I had visited many dispensaries until I found one that I grew to call home. Weeks of buying za went by, and I had built a pretty solid relationship with the owner there. I showed him my videos, and he showed me some of the famous people he's met, like Snoop Dogg. Until one day, on my last week there, somehow the topic of DMT came up. He had done it before, I had not. I explained my adventures in Amsterdam, bugging off mushrooms and za, my heroic dose journey, etc., to which he replied, "You're ready." And after a few minutes of back and forth of me explaining why I'm a bit scared to try it, he ended up convincing me with 3 simple words. Sick video idea. Damn it, he's right. $7 for eggs? I need that ad revenue to survive. My quest had begun. A true legendary at CBD Bro adventure, because he told me that he does not have DMT himself, but a buddy of his owns a smart shop near Venice Beach, and if you go there and say John sent you, they'll hook you up. I had been given a real-life oblivion quest on some...
You must travel to the faraway beaches of Venice, where there lives a powerful shaman. Once I find him, I must utter the code John sent me to progress the quest.
So I got on the nearest bus to Venice and started journeying there. After about 1 hour, I was dropped off and had a 7-minute walk to the DMT plug. When I arrived there, the shop was nearly empty, with only 2 stoner-looking dudes hanging around, and the clerk didn't seem too happy by my presence. But I gathered my courage, walked up and said, "Hello, do you guys sell DMT?" John sent me? And as I uttered the words of the legendary John, his face went from, "Get the f*** out of here, you fed," to, "Oh, John sent you, of course we have DMT. What you looking for, a pen or the real natural stuff?" Shit. Well, give me the natural stuff, I guess. Good choice. Here you are, and you know what? It's on the house. Just come back tomorrow and let us know how it went. Free? On the house? Tears of joy dripped down my face, as I hadn't heard those words ever since I arrived in the US. Now, I was locked in. I grabbed the herb and bust myself back to my $3K a month rundown studio apartment. An absolute banger of a deal if you ask me, and got myself prepared. I firstly watched a couple videos on the first time doing DMT, and found this very popular one where it was explained that you have to smoke it 3 times, but that after the first hit, you're not gonna wanna do anymore, yet you must push on if you want to get the true mystical experience. And since I knew I probably won't be doing this stuff ever again, I decided that I just had to go all out. I packed 1 bowl ready and set aside 2 similarly sized doses on the table to be added in after I finished the initial bowl, and well, I got down to business. I ripped my first hit, and right after exhaling, my room started shrinking. I swear the walls started closing in on me, and it's like everything got some top tier Minecraft shaders and a texture pack. I was way screwed up, but there was also a guiding voice, very similar to the video I had just watched.
Whatever you do, don't stop. You have to keep going. You have to get that 3rd hit.
I'm not shitting you when I say I felt like my only way to salvation was to get to the 3rd hit. I rushed to pack the 2nd bowl, all while I still saw the walls closing in. It was like a time trial. Okay. The world around me started violently collapsing and vibrating like there was a glitch in the Matrix and I was about to be pulled out. felt. It was so freaking intense, honestly, there's nothing I can even compare it to. I was screwed, I was tweaking, not having a fun time. I did not want to smoke more, but then through the chaos, my subconscious was screaming, "Finish what you started!" At this point, my arms were literally melting, but not in a particularly scary way. It's hard to explain, it was more cartoonish. I struggled to load the last bowl and fought my conscious brain every step of the way there. But I got it ready, and I smoked it. I smoked the whole thing, and I was simply not there anymore. I slumped back on my couch and just fell into a void of moving colors, weird shapes, and creatures. But even though I had never seen any of this, it all felt very familiar, like I had been there before, kind of like when you have a super vivid dream that weeks later you struggle to remember if it was real or your imagination. After a bit of time, the flickering colors and shapes stopped, and I landed in my childhood room, sitting in front of my monitor, and it was like all the colors and shapes were actually in this monitor, and I just zoomed out and I was sitting on my old chair staring at this screen, which was like a gateway to this colorful DMT universe. But even though I was not in the DMT portal anymore, my room was still super weird. Like, everything seemed to be as I remembered it, but I had an odd feeling that something was not right. Everything seemed correct, but wrong at the same time. And then, through the door to my room, in came one of my old friends, Salamander, but he was different. Like, it was an alternate parallel universe version of him, and he was wearing this Matrix-style robe and just kept saying, "You are where you belong. You are where you belong." But I was like, nah, this bad trip fake-ass Salamander, so I ran towards him and tried to give him the 1-2. But as I ran at him, he disappeared, and so did the room and everything behind me, and I fell through the doorway into this endless freefall of darkness that was surrounded by computer code detailing my whole freaking life. Events that I lived through, written out in some JavaScript language, like my whole existence was just a game with preset events programmed in. Eventually, I stopped free falling and was just standing there staring at all this code around me in existential dread when a calming yet ominous voice echoed from a distance. "Now that you know, can you ever go back?" And snap! Just as I flew into this void via flashing colors and weirdly familiar shapes, it pulled me back the same. I opened my eyes and I was wide awake, clear-headed as I've ever been, staring around my room in shock. Holy shit. It felt like it was over before it even started, and although I was left feeling a little bit frightened from that ominous final message, overall, I was just in shock that there exists a plant with such tremendous power in pulling out your subconscious mind and leaking it all to your conscious mind. I had a sense of mental awakening, but also like I knew something I shouldn't. Shit still freaks me out to this day. Really, the only thing I can compare it to is some ultra vivid lucid dreams I've had, and even those were more grounded in the reality we perceive day to day. DMT isn't your average psychedelic like psilocybin, which adds a layer on top of reality. DMT is its own reality, its own plane of existence, and for that reason, I probably won't be doing it again. Although I am very curious about the mysteries it presented to me, I also know from previous experience that trying to get answers to these mysteries just end up giving you more mysteries. But then again, I don't know, maybe DMT is different. January 1st, 2014. There is a line of people in front of a store in Denver, Colorado. Time goes by and they finally open, which then a man walks in and buys the first ever legal recreational bag of weed in the US and gets absolutely obliterated. And I'm pretty sure no one expected this event to bring forth one of the fastest growing industries in the United States. From being known as the murder drug in India to going to your local dispensary and buying an $80 bag of banana strawberry pudding flavored weed, this is the story of how the ZA went from illegal to a projected $100 billion industry by 2028. And it all started in the early 1900s. The initial regulation of cannabis in the United States came with the enactment of the 1937 Marijuana Tax Act. There is a widespread belief that the decision to outlaw cannabis was driven by racial motivations, for you see, during the early 1900s, a growing influx of Mexican immigrants into the US prompted a shift in media discourse towards portraying the ganja as a dangerous substance, leading to the implementation of stricter drug and cannabis laws. Media reports even went as far as labeling marijuana as the murder drug. Yeah bro, not meth and not coke, weed was the murder drug. What are you doing, bro? Smoking that murder drug. Oh, I didn't know it was that bad. Yeah, man, it makes you violent and literally go insane. Oh, damn, I'll put it away. Thanks for warning me. Nah, you good. Just don't do it again. What's that? This? Don't worry, this is just crack. Also, during this time, newspapers frequently circulated assertions linking marijuana use to mental illness, promiscuity, and violent behavior. These claims significantly deterred recreational marijuana use among the majority of Americans, despite the substance not being widely recognized at the time. Which, my favorite of the bunch is definitely violent behavior. I just can't deny that every time I smoke a doozy at the end of my day, I get this sudden rage, and I just start fucking going apeshit. That's probably also a big reason why Bob Marley was such a war activist and always propagating rage and hatred. Disclaimer, that was all sarcasm. Anyway, later on, John Ehrlichman, or whatever the fuck his name is, a senior advisor to Nixon, was quoted as saying, well, the quote is pretty long and boring, so I'll just summarize it. Pause the video if you want to see the full version. Did we know we were finessing the public about weed? See, of course, dog. But you gotta understand, bro. We did it for America. We got the public to associate hippies with weed and blacks with heroin. Then we criminalized the shit out of it and went full commando on them. We talking Rambo. We talking death to the chopper. Shit, we went full D-Day on them motherfuckers, man. We hit so many damn licks. Shit was kind of ridiculous. This quote was kind of the catalyst of the 1970 Controlled Substance Act, which was the consolidation of over 200 previous drug laws into a single statute governing the production and distribution of specific substances. Under the Controlled Substance Act, drugs were categorized into 5 schedules based on their potential for abuse and medical utility. This streamlined the process of drafting and amending laws to encompass entire groups of drugs rather than addressing each one individually. Schedule 1 drugs, the most rigorously regulated, were classified as having no recognized medical value, so obviously medical marijuana must have been like the lowest schedule, right? Wrong! Despite evidence indicating a lower risk of abuse and clear medical benefits, marijuana was still placed under Schedule 1. Research has demonstrated its effectiveness in treating conditions such as AIDS, cancer, epilepsy, and various other medical ailments. But I guess Congress was still like, it's not the Lord's loud. It's the devil's lettuce. Since its initial prohibition, there have been ongoing movements advocating for the legalization of cannabis, which in the 1970s pressure to legalize weed intensified in California. Proposition 19 aimed to legalize the grass and was introduced on the ballot in 1972, but garnered only 33% of the vote, so it failed for now. The push for legalization has primarily focused on 3 distinct products: CBD, medical marijuana, and everybody's favorite, recreational marijuana. So finally in 1996, California became the pioneering state to overturn the prohibition of weed by legalizing medical marijuana, despite conflicting with the federal law, brah. Subsequently, in 2012, Colorado and Washington became the first states to legalize recreational weed use. Oh yeah. Yo bro, did you hear? Weed is finally legal. Really? Yeah bro, I just bought this from a store. Shit is wild. So you're telling me if I went down to my underground farm, harvest my 20 or so pounds of weed, then go to the university campus, set up a weed lemonade stand, and sell all of my lemonades to the students, I'm not a drug dealer and just a businessman? Nah, I think you can like have a couple grams, and your operation is still, well, not gonna lie bro, I got a wire and the FBI should be kicking your door in right about... FBI, open up! Which brings us to today, where the ZA is still federally illegal and a Schedule 1 drug, and because of that, there really isn't a lot of research on it. Between 2000 and 2018, $1.56 billion was allocated to cannabis research, with half of this sum dedicated to investigating the potential adverse effects of the drug in recreational use. This disproportionate allocation meant that understanding the harms of weed received 20 times more funding than any other area of research, while only a fraction, less than $5 million, was directed towards enhancing our understanding of its therapeutic application. In 2018 though, the Farm Bill legalized CBD throughout the US, as long as it followed the rules of of staying below 0.3% THC, which this farm bill turned out to have a shit ton of legal loopholes, making the sale of real weed online completely legal and possible. More on that later. Anyway, because of the lack of research and, well, frankly, awful regulations, we are currently in the wild west of the cannabis industry. You might assume buying weed from a big brand is safer than, let's say, your friendly neighborhood plug, and in some cases it might be, but a lot of times your plug is selling the same shit a dispensary is, just the dispensary is putting it in a fancy bag. Even worse, there's a big issue with sprayed weed, which basically means bud that is artificially flavored in a machine to give the illusion of it being some exotic Havana pack, when in reality it's just a mid sprayed with banana flavor. So you're telling me this eighth costs $100 because it was grown and harvested in Uganda, Africa, right next to the exotic banana farms, and that's why it's banana flavor? Yup. Then why is there a spray bottle right there labeled banana?
Why are you asking so many questions, man? Are you a cop?
What? No.
Guys, get over here, we gotta kill this guy.
But you can't fully blame the growers and dispensaries for this. The problem is the regulations and taxes that are put on these products are so hefty it makes turning a profit really hard. Basically, if your manufacturing cost isn't like at least 10 times less what you're selling it for, you're kinda screwed. There's also a multi-billion-dollar industry that spawned from the 2018 Farm Bill called the derivative industry. And if you don't know what derivatives are, they're basically weed, but sometimes altered chemically, like for example HHC, which is just THC but with an extra hydrogen molecule. The most insane derivative is THCA though, which is quite literally just weed, only in its normal state before you heat it, it isn't. It's only after when you light it that shit converts to regular old, get you smacked like a penguin THC, which, you know, unless your main method of getting high is sticking the nug up your ass. What I'm saying is, THCA is in every sense just THC when you are using it for the purpose of getting faded, which you probably are. But just because we are currently in the wild west of the weed industry doesn't mean it's gonna be like this forever. More and more countries are legalizing and propelling weed further and further away from the dark shadow it used to be under. Germany is legalizing on April 1st, 2024, Spain has social cannabis clubs, the Netherlands just legalized, Canada legalized, etc. It seems every year that goes by, more and more countries are legalizing. And especially in the US, once they start getting solid tax laws and regulations on the stuff, I think a lot of the problems I mentioned earlier will fix themselves. Honestly, this is very cool, and I do believe you and me will live long enough to one day witness a generation who grow up with weed being looked at the same way as alcohol. The way I see it, as the old generation of politicians and world leaders fades, the stigma surrounding weed will too. You can even see glimpses of it today, as a lot of politicians are using legal weed as a way to get your vote, which, you know, don't let that be your main motivation for voting for someone, but you know, it's a bonus. Getting high at any family event is always a risky mission, especially if you're still in the teen phase where everybody sees you as the kid that needs to be taught life lessons. Even though, how is it fair that Uncle Ronnie can down a liter of vodka and start saying the most out-of-pocket stuff, like he was Kanye West or something, and for some reason, nobody seems to care. But if I so much as speak 0.5 seconds before Uncle Ronnie finishes his rant about why drinking beer is actually healthier than water, then I'm looked at as the one with behavioral problems. So you can imagine that if my family found out that there hasn't been a single gathering where I haven't been at least a little high, they'd probably have me sent to rehab. But even though Uncle Ronnie might be a tiny bit racist and sexist, he's also funny as fuck. And no way am I going to the only comedy show where there's also an unholy amount of munch and not getting high. Well, that's at least what my mindset was until a couple years back, when as usual, the whole family tree gathered at Grandma's place for the yearly Christmas dinner. So as we do, me and my brother hit up the local plug the night before and scrounged our money together to buy the Holy Gram. And our plan was to ration the gram in a way that we can stay blazed for the whole day. But what we did not take into account was this was no ordinary ganja. It was that exotic Cali moon rock. So here we are, everybody's packed all their things and we're about to jump in the car and drive to the ranch. But before we pull up, we gotta get high. And thankfully, we had already rolled an extraordinarily perfect spliff. With the spliff in pocket, we told our parents that we're gonna take a quick walk. And oh boy, like I said before, one thing we did not take into account was the potency of this Zaza. Cause about halfway through, I was feeling like a well done smoked ribeye steak. So I told my brother,
"Hey man, I don't know if we should smoke more. I'm like really faded already."
And he was like,
Yeah, I feel you. But what other choice do we got? No way in hell am I wasting even a microgram of this exotic moon rock. And I can't put it in my pocket cause the whole car will stink of grass. And you know we're gonna be exiled if they find out we hide.
Yeah, true. Shit. Guess we gotta finish it.
Don't worry though, it's pretty early. I doubt that anybody's there yet. Plus, we can just go upstairs.
Alright, facts. Just gotta survive the car ride. So we go back to the crib and hop in the car, and we instantly got that "smells weird in here" from our mom, but thankfully that's where it ended, at least for now. We arrive at Grandma's house, and in the 15-minute drive there, the za had fully melted into our systems. Also, because this was a while back, we were not the zagas we are now, so we were really banking on there being no one there, cause even though we can go upstairs, we can't just walk in like,
Hey guys, Merry Christmas!
Yeah, Merry Christmas. And of course, in the spirit of giving, fate had given us a big and juicy fuck you. Cause when we arrived and opened the front door, we were greeted by every cousin there existed. Place was looking like a McDonald's on a Friday night, cause I swear, half of my cousins I had never seen in my life. We tried to quickly go upstairs into the safe zone, but before we could, we heard, Hey, where you going? Come downstairs. So now our plan A was spoiled, and we knew that this was gonna be one tough mission, cause well, as we know, it is a tradition in every family to roast the hell out of the younger generation. First thing that was said as soon as we sat down was directed at my brother.
So where's the little girlfriend you came with last Christmas?
Yeah, we broke up.
Huh! Well, of course you did. You ugly as fuck, boy! Why you laughing, son? You're even worse. Looking like Peppa the Pig.
The adults alternated between talking about their political views and roasting us, so it was quite a roller coaster ride. One moment they're arguing if Joe Biden is conspiring with China, and next they're telling us how we have it so good, and how back in their day they had to work 12 hours a day at a coal mine for 30 cents an hour, and that we need to grow up and enter the real world. Anyway, after about 2 hours of munching and getting roasted, we decided to go for another walk. So first we went upstairs and rolled another impeccable spliff. As we were about to go out the front door, we were greeted by Uncle Ronnie, but me being faded and well, just stupid too I guess, I was holding the spliff in my hand like a present, out there for everybody to see. And Uncle Ronnie, being the drunk and outgoing party man he is, was quick to comment,
Is that a joint?
And in my head, I thought we're screwed. He'll never live this down. He's gonna tell everyone, and on top of everybody roasting us about getting zero hoes, they're also gonna roast us for being drug addicts.
Finally, you guys grew some balls. Have fun with that.
After that, we were like, damn! Didn't know he was chill like that. And went outside to smoke the spliff. As we were puffing on the za, we were informed via text message of a local Christmas party going on at Ricky's house. So as you do while bugging off the moon rock, we ordered a Uber without telling anyone at the Christmas function we're leaving. And the reason for that is, well, that Kush had some otherworldly abilities, cause it got us so suited we completely forgot we were supposed to stay overnight at Grandma's place. And that fact did come to bite us later. Getting high at any family event is always a risky mission, especially if you're still in the teen phase where everybody sees you as the kid that needs to be taught life lessons. Even though, how is it fair that Uncle Ronnie can down a liter of vodka and start saying the most out-of-pocket stuff, like he was Kanye West or something, and for some reason, nobody seems to care. But if I so much as speak 0.5 seconds before Uncle Ronnie finishes his rant about why drinking beer is actually healthier than water, then I'm looked at as the one with behavioral problems. So you can imagine that if my family found out that there hasn't been a single gathering where I haven't been at least a little high, they'd probably have me sent to rehab. But even though Uncle Ronnie might be a tiny bit racist and sexist, he's also funny as fuck. And no way am I going to the only comedy show where there's also an unholy amount of munch and not getting high. Well, that's at least what my mindset was until a couple years back when, as usual, the whole family tree gathered at Grandma's place for the yearly Christmas dinner. So as we do, me and my brother hit up the local plug the night before and scrounged our money together to buy the Holy Gram. And our plan was to ration the gram in a way that we can stay blazed for the whole day. But what we did not take into account was this was no ordinary ganja. It was that exotic Cali moon rock. So here we are, everybody's packed all their things and we're about to jump in the car and drive to the ranch. But before we pull up, we gotta get high. And thankfully, we had already rolled an extraordinarily perfect spliff. With the spliff in pocket, we told our parents that we're gonna take a quick walk. And oh boy, like I said before, one thing we did not take into account was the potency of this Zaza. Cause about halfway through, I was feeling like a well done smoked ribeye steak. So I told my brother,
Hey man, I don't know if we should smoke more. I'm like really faded already.
and he was like,
Yeah, I feel you. But what other choice do we got? No way in hell am I wasting even a microgram of this exotic moon rock. And I can't put it in my pocket, cause the whole car will stink of grass. And you know we're gonna be exiled if they find out we hide.
Yeah, true. Shit. Guess we gotta finish it.
Don't worry though, it's pretty early. I doubt that anybody's there yet. Plus, we can just go upstairs.
Aight, facts, just gotta survive the car ride. So we go back to the crib and hop in the car, and we instantly got that "smells weird in here" from our mom, but thankfully that's where it ended, at least for now. We arrive at grandma's house, and in the 15-minute drive there, the za had fully melted into our systems. Also, because this was a while back, we were not the zagas we are now, so we were really banking on there being no one there, cause even though we can go upstairs, we can't just walk in like,
Hey guys, Merry Christmas!
yeah, Merry Christmas. And of course, in the spirit of giving, fate had given us a big and juicy fuck you. Cause when we arrived and opened the front door, we were greeted by every cousin there existed. Place was looking like a McDonald's on a Friday night, cause I swear, half of my cousins I had never seen in my life. We tried to quickly go upstairs into the safe zone, but before we could, we heard, Hey, where you going? Come downstairs. So now our plan A was spoiled, and we knew that this was gonna be one tough mission, cause well, as we know, it is a tradition in every family to roast the hell out of the younger generation. First thing that was said as soon as we sat down was directed at my brother.
So where's the little girlfriend you came with last Christmas?
Yeah, we broke up.
Huh! Well, of course you did. You ugly as fuck, boy! Why you laughing, son? You're even worse. Looking like Peppa the Pig.
The adults alternated between talking about their political views and roasting us, so it was quite a roller coaster ride. One moment they're arguing if Joe Biden is conspiring with China, and next they're telling us how we have it so good, and how back in their day they had to work 12 hours a day at a coal mine for 30 cents an hour, and that we need to grow up and enter the real world. Anyway, after about 2 hours of munching and getting roasted, we decided to go for another walk. So first we went upstairs and rolled another impeccable spliff. As we were about to go out the front door, we were greeted by Uncle Ronnie, but me being faded and well, just stupid too I guess, I was holding the spliff in my hand like a present, out there for everybody to see. And Uncle Ronnie, being the drunk and outgoing party man he is, was quick to comment,
Is that a joint?
And in my head, I thought we're screwed. He'll never live this down. He's gonna tell everyone, and on top of everybody roasting us about getting zero hoes, they're also gonna roast us for being drug addicts.
Finally, you guys grew some balls. Have fun with that.
After that, we were like, damn! Didn't know he was chill like that. And went outside to smoke the spliff. As we were puffing on the za, we were informed via text message of a local Christmas party going on at Ricky's house. So as you do while bugging off the moon rock, we ordered a Uber without telling anyone at the Christmas function we're leaving. And the reason for that is, well, that Kush had some otherworldly abilities, cause it got us so suited we completely forgot we were supposed to stay overnight at Grandma's place. And that fact did come to bite us later. But for now, the Uber arrived, so we hopped in and started driving to Ricky's place. Where even though we didn't know it at the time, the craziest Christmas party in the history of Christmas parties was being thrown. So yesterday I was packing myself a big ol' hit as per usual and thought to myself, man, I'm really hitting this out from this wacky silicone machine crafted laboratory grade piece. Like, what happened to the Apple BONG, the can BONG, the good old spliff? And so today I'm coming at you with the 5 levels of smoking grass and how your equipment to do so evolves along with your mindset and shit. Starting with level 1, the noob. This the level where you still think the Za is some type of magical space unicorn shit, cause well, you've never done it, but your friends say it's crazy. So one day, you and the boys hear of a dude called Dragon selling grass in the school bathroom, so you band your money together and go acquire the grass. Once obtained and a safe area found, your friends are like, how are we gonna smoke this? Which, depending on where you're at, you're gonna end up either with a crappily handcrafted spliff or an aluminium can with holes in it. Whichever one you choose, you're gonna get faded in a hole that night and either fly with the happy space unicorns or get tortured by thoughts like, hope my mom doesn't call me right now. Is this ever gonna wear off? Was 9/11 an inside job? And if your first experience was the latter, then you probably didn't advance to the next level, at least for a while. But if you had a fun old time and continued to smoke up with your buddies, at some point you'll find yourself at level 2. Why does she always make my throat burn? After a while of smoking the Za from spliffs or from some shitty Mountain Dew can, you finally think to yourself, maybe I should invest in something that makes it so my throat doesn't want to eat itself inside out every time I take a hit. So you go online and buy the cheapest BONG you can find. Excited to use your new acquired technology, you invite your friends over and get faded in a hole yet again. But it's different this time, because the BONG doesn't destroy your throat as much, you can actually kinda take consecutive hits. So being the genius you are, you do that and ascend into Yodi Land for the first time. After the ascension, you begin to wonder though, how high can a mortal man truly be? Which the answers to those questions are still a ways away, but after a quick Google search of how to get more high, you discover something called the Gravity BONG, and soon after go into Level 3, the Zaza Man. Eager to try out your newfound powers of gravity control, you yet again invite your friends over and take a smack dabbly do off that thing. Which what follows is actually not as crazy as before, cause even though you all did get faded in a hoe, you also got sleepier than a hoe and got knocked out on the couch pretty fast. So you vow that the next time you use the powers of gravity, you'll drink an energy drink or something so you won't fall asleep like a baby. Even though it is pretty nice sleeping like a baby. Anyway, at this point, your friends are probably like, yeah, nah, that's a bit much. But because you're a crusader and haven't yet learned the lesson of moderation, you still want to get even more faded. So back to Google, and now you find yourself basically with two options, edibles or dabs. But because this is the 5 levels of smoking grass, let's just say you chose the dab pen. And shortly after, you move to level 4. The Fortnite cart. After the obtaining of the Benjamin, you test it out with your friends and you get faded in a hoe yet again. But the reality is your friends just want to smoke normal Za cause the Benjamin kicks too hard for them. But you still haven't learned moderation, so you call them wackos and waddle your way to Benjamin City alone. While at Benjamin City, you're like, more high, must get more high. And there's only one more item to fill your never-ending quench for tolerance destruction, and that is level 5. Bro, what the fuck? You got a damn science station here with dab rigs? They're, well, unnecessary is a way to put it. I mean, bro, you know she has gone too far when you gotta look at the instructions on how to get high. Plus, your friends don't even really want to try it out anymore and urge you to go on a tea break, which, after realizing that all your money has been going to your need to get higher and higher, you're kind of forced into one, which, after, hopefully you'll move on to final level. Ascend it. Finally, you realize smoking Za isn't just about getting as high as possible, because every situation has its own limits of fadedness, so if you're just going out on a night out with your homies, best thing to do is to smoke a spliff. If you don't want to get faded in a hoe though at home, do the gravity, and so on. The true power you have over all the other levels though is you've already gone through all of them, knowing that you can manage your tolerance correctly and smoke up with the appropriate tools for the appropriate situations. Do you remember your first time smoking the Zaza? I bet you used either some type of makeshift Mountain Dew can where you inhaled more green paint than anything, or you rolled yourself an abomination of a spliff where half the stuff got stuck in the filter whilst you were standing there sucking on it like... Bro, why this shit ain't working? Bro, of course it ain't working. Look at the damn crutch. You were supposed to roll a filter, not a leak-proof titanium pipe. Fool. Yet, the more you blaze, the better your tools and skills to do so improve. But everybody starts off at level 1. First timer. This is the level where you'll be holding your butts like Elon Musk. Only you're not Elon Musk and your homies will clown the hell out of you for holding the split like it was a diamond or something. Also, at this point, your understanding of rolling blunts is that you put the stuff in the middle and just kind of roll it up like a cone. It doesn't actually work like that. And if you were to hit any type of can or makeshift bong, even after the slightest inhale, you'll be on the floor coughing your lungs out of your throat like... So I just inhaled from this opening? Yeah, man.
You bastard! You licked it, didn't you?
But no worries, after a while of being clowned on, you'll eventually learn enough to get to Level 2.
Yeah, bro, I can roll it no problem.
Even though you're still only a beginner, this is where your confidence is at its highest, cause you've rolled a couple splits and instead of them being completely unusable, the homies usually are like, okay, whatever, it'll do. This is also the stage where you'll probably green out for the first time, cause you overestimate your tolerance a lot. Thinking that just cause you've blazed up 3 times in the past 30 days, you're ready to go over to the homie's house and start hitting something called gravity bump? Whatever though, how much higher can you even get, right? Also, at this stage you just might have a makeshift aluminium can pipe thing at your place, but buying an actual bump is out of the question, cause you'd rather cough till you're on the floor in tears than pay 20 bucks for something that isn't even necessary. Well, wait a month or so and you'll be on Level 3. Schmack the diddly do. At this point, you've decided that the negative health implications of inhaling paint and plastic into your lungs is worth fixing with $23. And now that you have your own piece, your tolerance has gotten to the point where you can handle gravity sessions pretty well. There's really not much to say at this level, except you're the average smoker who can roll a quality spliff in a couple minutes, and you usually never ruin the group's vibe because you got too high. Well, that's until you get to Level 4. What's a dab, bro? You've mastered the powers of a gravity bump, but one day your friend invites you over to his place, thinking it's gonna be an average day of blazing and playing Warzone. But then he pulls out something that looks a lot like a vape, only it's not a vape, it's the key to the other side. You hit the Benjamin for the first time, and you find yourself completely obliterated. So much so that you think to yourself, never again will I hit the Benjamin, for the power is too much for a mere mortal to handle. Until you realize that normal butt just don't get you as high as you would want to get. So you get your own dab pen, and eventually you'll be on Level 5, the Double Benjamin. Now at this point, you've thrown your bong in a box somewhere and you use something that looks straight out of a Rick and Morty episode, a dab station. But to be honest, you're starting to miss the good old days of getting faded by just sharing a spliff with the homies. Cause at this point, unless you're hitting ridiculous blinkers with the Double Benjamin, man, you barely feel high. So you decide it's time to take a tolerance break and ascend into Level 6. Avatar, the master of all 4 elements. You've realized that chasing the next knockout high isn't really what blazing is about, and you now just smoke up at appropriate times with the appropriate tools. So if you're just trying to chill and play video games, you might just hit a quick rip from the bong. Or if you're going to the store, you'd roll a nice spliff. And if you're going to, let's say, an amusement park with your friends, well, that's when you might consider busting out the Double Benjamin and getting faded than a hoe. 10,000 BC, a group of cavemen in the Oki Islands of Japan needed some warmth and wanted to start a fire when they discovered a funny looking green plant and either out of curiosity or desperation took it and inadvertently created history's first ever hotbox. Yet this early grass was not that loud that people be smoking today because as we know over the years the za has been scientifically and artificially cultivated to be much more concentrated in the high it gives. So, although it is funny to think about a group of cavemen purposely starting a fire in a small shelter for the sole purpose of getting faded in a hoe, it is unlikely that it actually ever happened. Yet aside from this iffy recreational stint in Japan, hemp was first commonly used in the lands that are modern day Mongolia and China for more practical uses like eating it. Which after saying that you might be imagining something like this. Yo, what's up? How you doing? Had any fun with those new seeds I gave you?
Yo, nah, I actually came here to give them back.
Last night I was looking at the moon and I swear that motherfucker was looking right back at me. But alas, this probably wasn't the reality because the THC levels in this early cultivated Zaza were just really low, but soon the Chinese would discover that the holy plant's fibers were also great for making stuff too, like clothes, paper, and bowstrings. Which turns out hemp fibers were superior to the bamboo ones used by rivaling factions, allowing the Chinese to shoot their arrows much further. So basically, back in the day, if you were having a long distance bow battle and were losing, you might have screamed out, "We need to get closer! These motherfuckers have weed!" Anyway, it wasn't long after mofos realized that the loud wasn't only good for making stuff, it was also great for treating physical maladies. And after a couple thousand years, Emperor Shen Nung, known as the father of Chinese medicine, included the magic plant in his medical encyclopedia under the name Ma. Which, that sounds oddly similar to Za, doesn't it? I'm guessing every couple thousand years the first letter changes or something. But now, let's explore the question we're all asking. When exactly did mofos start ripping that shit to get faded? Well, one of the earliest counts is about 2,500 years ago, when researchers discovered 10 mini barbecues in a cemetery near modern-day Tajikistan that had residue of burnt cannabis with a much higher concentration of THC than normal, probably meaning it was selectively bred to get you, well, lit. Although this was one of the first counts of people purposely inhaling the broccoli to get high, it was most likely used as part of a ritual to invoke an altered state of mind so you could communicate with spirits. Which shit, dog, I wanna know what these dudes were smoking, cause I ain't never heard of no grass that gets you to the spirit realm. This might have low-key been the last kush Snoop Dogg smoked, cause once you get so high you start communicating with your dead gran-gran, that's when you really might be like, okay, I think it's about time I stop smoking this shit. Since cannabis, for one reason or another, proved to be quite the useful plant, people started trading it around the world as soon as it was domesticated. Which the only people who didn't really fuck with the Zaza were Europeans, who preferred getting hammered instead. Which is low-key reflected in modern times too, especially in the northern countries where once you turn 18, you can drink as much poison as you want, but if you want a blaze, well, you might be looking at a little bit of jail time, my boy. But now, let's quickly go over the uses of cannabis throughout different cultures so we can move on to the modern age, starting with Hindus. They made something called bang, an edible cannabis paste that had medicinal properties but also got you high. This could be added to a variety of foods and drinks, which this bang was the preferred food of the Hindu god Shiva, making him in my eyes the god of edibles. Disclaimer, that was a joke. Islam. Here the Za was called hashish and was introduced about 1,000 years ago, which hashish wasn't strictly forbidden in the Quran at first, so a lot of Muslims ate it for its medicinal and relaxation properties. But later, Egypt basically banned it, and also the Quran was revisited by many and reinterpreted to include hashish to be banned just like alcohol. The Vikings. These dudes basically used the Za to make rope, sailcloth, and other things, but also for its medicinal properties, mostly to relieve pain, and to date there's no hard evidence that they consumed it for its recreational use, but you know, maybe they should have, because they were quite the horrendous savages and murderers, so it might have made them think a little bit about peace and love. But what about America, England, and the actual global world powers? How did they react to weed? Well, again, like the Chinese, Europeans and Americans at first prominently used the magic green plant in the 16th to 18th century for more practical things like making sailcloth and rope, which the plant itself grew much larger in the New World soil, and combined with the practicality of it, everything started being hemp-derived. Clothes, paper, well, basically anything that required fibers. But the question still remains, when did mofos start smoking that shit to get blasted on the regular? Cause although at some point you, your neighbor, your grandma, your boss, and even George Washington were out here growing weed, wasn't nobody out here rolling them up. Well, until the arrival of Mexicans. The loud version of hemp first arrived in Brazil in the early 1500s by way of enslaved Africans traveling with the Portuguese. And the native South Americans, who are already consuming some other psychoactive substances, quickly started blazing the Zaza too, and its use soon spread across South America and into Mexico, from which in the 1910s is when the loud first spread into the US, via Mexican immigrants escaping the effects of the Mexican Revolution. And almost immediately the good was viewed as a threat, and by 1931, 29 states had banned its use. Although it wasn't really the Zaza that the US didn't fall with, it was unfortunately mostly just racism against Mexican Americans and black citizens of the South, which both these groups were enjoyers of the Za to some regard, so it became a scapegoat for racial bias in the US, and they blamed it for everything from petty crimes all the way to murder. And in 1937, the US completely banned all non-medical use of weed, which all of this kind of explains why the mostly peaceful plant has been thrown in the same Schedule 1 category with full-on life-destroying substances like heroin and cocaine. But thankfully, a couple decades later came the hippie movement of the 1960s to 1970s. This is what likely sparked a comeback for weed, cause unlike before, when the Zaza was mostly smoked by Mexican immigrants and black citizens who the US was massively racist against, the hippie movement had middle-class white American youth start blazing too. Which it was all about love, peace, spirituality, non-violence, and of course, every hippie's favorite, recreational drug use. Although most hippies were all about peace and love, that was quite easy to say when most of them were literally privileged enough to drop out of college, run off with Cassandra in a rainbow van, go on copious amounts of mindset-altering trips, mostly powered by LSD, and then return 10 years later to their parents and have them say,
"It's okay, son. I was young and stupid once too."
Anyway, although the grass was still federally illegal, this didn't really do much, cause in 1976, 1 in 8 Americans over the age of 12 admitted to smoking it in the past 30 days. Hippies though were especially interested in cannabis, so much so they went on something called the Hippie Trail, which was basically an excursion by the youths of the world to go over to the Middle East and India, all while riding in magic buses and discovering new ways to get absolutely blasted, such as smoking the concentrated Zaza resin known as hash. But acquiring the Zaza would soon get much harder, because you see, most of it came from Mexico, so in 1969 the US started patrolling the border, and in 1975 they got even more aggressive and started spraying herbicide on Mexican wheat plants. And so good old supply and demand made grass prices skyrocket, which a lot of people started then growing the plant themselves in mini greenhouses, closets, bathtubs, storage units, basements, wherever they could. But then in 1982, Mr. Smarty Pants Ronald Reagan took it even a step further by encouraging the streamlined arrest of anyone in possession of an illegal substance, which was really dumb because most of the focus was on pot, all while crack, meth, and heroin were all still being transported and consumed on a regular basis. Even worse, this enforcement seemed to be racially motivated because despite plenty of traffickers and consumers being white, the majority of arrests were Latino and black youths, all while this bizarre over-focus on cannabis allowed the growing opioid epidemic to go unchecked. But thankfully, the US is slowly learning from their mistakes, where today 24 states have legalized the recreational use of marijuana. On top of that, the increased level of research on it has also found multiple medical use cases and can be prescribed to you by special doctors if seen fit. And although the Zaza is still federally illegal and a Schedule 1 drug, the overall perception of it has changed for the better, including in December 2022 when President Biden signed a bill to make it easier for researchers to obtain plants for their studies, which will hopefully accelerate the learning of positive and negative side effects of consuming the Za even further. But all that aside, the overall vibe towards the loud has gotten a lot more accepting, and these days more and more people view the smoking of the grass not as you being a junkie, but the same way as having a couple beers with the homies on a Friday night and watching some WWE. Blinkers. We all know that the Zaza can reignite that sense of wonder we had as a kid. Unfortunately, this doesn't come without a price, because depending on how much you consume, your brain function will drop accordingly. So even though in your head, you'll feel like a super genius connecting dots you couldn't piece together before, to the people around you, you'll be looking something like this. But for all the people who are relatively new to blazing, this list can help you avoid doing things so incredibly stupid that you'll look back at them, wondering if maybe you really are all the things that you were called in those Call of Duty lobbies back in the day. Anyway, let's get right into number 3. Ordering food and then forgetting about it. So you hit a smack dabbley-do and you're suddenly hit with the munchies. Since you are feeling extra lazy today and want to reward yourself, you hop on your favorite food delivery app and get yourself 15 hot wings, 2 Big Macs, 2 large fries, a number 4, 2 number 9s, 1 with extra dip, and also a good old McFlurry. Now that you ordered your food, it's time to hop on the good old internet and start looking at random stuff. And oh, what is this? A conspiracy theory about Elon Musk? Better dig deeper, you say to yourself. Until you end up on some random subreddit with 15 members arguing if birds are robots created by the government to spy on their citizens. Yet at some point, you get tired and fall asleep. So the next day, you wake up, drink your coffee, and go outside to watch the beautiful sunrise. But oh, what is this? You are greeted by 3 smelly wet bags of food from yesterday's rain, and you think to yourself, oh boy, free breakfast. Nah, but for real, this happened to me once, and it was one of those moments where you think, man, really gotta lay off that saw. Number 2. Yeah, bro. Say like, sir, will there be anything else? No. That'll be... No. Actually, I'll have a double cheeseburger too. Edibles, part of the holy trinity when it comes to getting as faded as humanly possible. And the reason they are so potent is that in the act of cooking the za, the THC transforms into something beyond its normal powers and becomes Super Saiyan za, or 11-hydroxy-THC. But let's stick to Super Saiyan cause that other name isn't really cool. Anyway, if you're an OG subscriber, you know my first time doing edibles was quite a crazy experience, but I wouldn't call it anything else than, yeah, I was really freaking high. But this time, the abominations we made were no mere first-timer dose. We threw everything we had in there. The day started like any other, except I had just gotten back from Barcelona the previous night and was a bit tired. But you see, there was this really cool movie in the cinema called Oppenheimer. Anyway, me and Rizix had planned to watch Oppenheimer in the cinema sometime before August, but being us, we obviously wanted to be baked during this time, and well, the movie was 3 hours long, so just a quick hit wasn't gonna cut it. So we decided on something we hadn't done in years, that obviously being edibles. The only problem was, we don't know how to manage time, and well, once we started actually making the things, the movie had already begun. But although I do love Cillian Murphy, let's be honest, the main part of this journey was the edibles, not Oppenheimer. So we were like, screw it, we only gonna miss like the first 30 minutes. Which, if we had actually read some reviews on the movie, we would have known it's not something you go to 30 minutes late while bugging up the Zaza and the world's strongest edible. Yeah, we also, just for safe measures, smoked a bit before too. But anyway, once we made our abominations and the whole house was smelling like Snoop Dogg's beard, we sat down to eat these deep fried to get you deeply fried cookies. Ready? Ready. Bruh, they're so dry, man. Yeah, so they were awful in the taste department, but in the how messed up they gonna get you apartment, well, you'll find out soon enough. As I said earlier, just for safety, in case they were duds, we also smoked up a bit before, and we're feeling like medium-sized, cold on the kitchen counter pizza rolls, even before the cookies hit. As we arrived in the cinema, we were, well, a little bit scared, but also excited to find out what these monstrous things were going to do to us, because, well, we hadn't done edibles in ages, and knew our tolerance towards them was zero. After buying popcorn and a medium drink, we walked in the cinema, took our seats, and sat down to watch the movie, which had been going on for 40 minutes at that point, but we thought we could still enjoy it, and we did until... Bro, I could not stop laughing, and that's when I knew the edibles had hit. Now, up until this point, I consider myself a man of pure willpower and mental fortitude, and that there's no way some green plant was gonna get me bugging. And for the first 30 minutes after feeling them hit, it was true, until I got the ultimate disability the Za can curse you with. I'm talking, of course, about manual breathing. I was sat in that cinema like a full-on tweaker, and bro, it did not feel good. Like, however hard I tried to destroy the Super Saiyan Saw with my mind, I just couldn't. And Rizix was low-key tweaking too. Plus the movie, well, it was kinda shit. And before you roast me in the comments, I think Oppenheimer is a great movie. Just arriving 40 minutes late and bugging off Super Saiyan Za wasn't the best idea for a story-focused film. So, we decided to get the fuck out of there. And bro, I don't even know how to describe what I felt and saw once we opened the gates to the outside world. Bro, I was feeling like my senses were turned up to 10,000% overdrive, and bruh, I'ma be honest, I was not seeing seeing straight. So although we drove to the cinema, we were in no shape to drive back, so we just started paddling our demon-eyes looking butts home. Until at some point, we found some e-scooters, so we rented those and just started blasting away. And what an amazing time that was. Like, every switch of scenery felt like a brand new biome. Like, at some point, we took a little detour through a park, and bro, we felt like we was in a damn jungle. Like, even the slight rumble and turbulence we got from the road made it feel like we were true explorers on not e-scooters, but one of those safari exploring buggies, riding through unexplored wildland. But anyway, once we got back home, I decided to look in the mirror to see if I looked as high as I felt, and well, I looked more high. Like, I didn't even know your eyes can get that red, but there they were, looking like the eyes of the damn devil himself. As I looked in the mirror and saw nothing but an empty vessel wandering the wrong plane of existence staring back, I got a bit frightened, cause man, I swear, my reflection was not moving in sync with me yet again. But this time, it was even worse, cause I was like 4 times higher than I was when I first did edibles. So what happened next, you might be wondering? I was bugging out, looking like an uncooked steak, and I couldn't focus on anything longer than 1 second. Well, I went to sleep, cause one good thing I will say about the trip, the comfortability I felt in my bed was unlike anything I've ever felt before. My blanket was just the perfect temperature, my mattress the perfect fit, and my pillow the perfect place to lay your head. And because of that, and I'm not exaggerating on this, the very second I closed my eyes, I was asleep. Well, not like deep sleep, but nap sleep. Anyway, after closing my eyes, in about 3 minutes, I was completely knocked out. And well, I slept so much like a baby, I actually believe the Za manipulated my very core and reverted my cells and body shape to that of when I was 3 months old, to enable me to get the full experience of sleeping like a baby. Only problem was though, as I woke up like literally 10 hours later, I was still high AF. Not like can't see straight high, but like just hit the BONG high. To be honest, I was just amazed, cause I knew if we had smoked that amount of Za we put in the cookies, we might have been really lit, but nothing like we were from the cookies. And after that day, I have now learned my lesson that actual strong edibles are more comparable to mushrooms than normal bud. Have you ever met someone who parades the fact that he loves the Zaza, and if you ever say anything bad about it, he gets all defensive and starts frantically arguing about how it's good for you? Like, yeah bro, there are health benefits, but if you're out here doing 8 rips, 4 2 edibles, and half a cart every 12 hours, do you really think you're reaping the health benefits of the Za? Mofo beyond about, it helps with my anxiety and depression. Like bro, what are you anxious about? Worried that the pizza delivery guy might be an assassin? Sounds more like paranoia to me. And have you stopped to think that maybe the depression you're feeling could be because all you does is sit around, eat pizzas, smoke grass, and watch Disney Plus? But people like this aren't the majority, and overall, when you meet a fellow grass eater, you can expect him to be just a normal chill dude who uses the Za to enhance his experiences, rather than rely on it for them. So today, I thought I'd go over some of the coolest dudes I've encountered who consume that lettuce, starting with the Za athlete. This is the guy who's always in the gym grinding to become the ultimate specimen of human movement. The thing that's great about this dude is that although he loves the grass, which is generally considered a lazy substance, he doesn't let that stereotype stop him from enjoying it. Although many of his athlete friends might hold it against him, calling him a crackhead, he knows that it's all about moderation and using the Za to enhance his recovery and free time experiences. But the best part about a dude like this is that you know he is a solid guy, that you don't have to worry about leading you down a bad road, cause he is always mindful of where the breaking point between just having a fun time with the homies and hey bros, wanna do some is. So if you're friends with this guy, you can be damn sure he won't ever peer pressure you into doing something stupid. In fact, he'll probably be the one who will try to talk you out of something like that. Plus, you know, depending on the athlete, he might make the NBA, so best to stay on his good side if you ever wanna blaze up in a LA mansion with Wiz Khalifa and Drake and shit. But on to the next dude on the list, the high gamer. I'm not sure how you guys feel about video games, but I've always seen the genre as the highest form of at-home entertainment there is. Although it is a lot harder to truly get into a game nowadays, when you do, the peaks of fun are much higher than watching a Netflix show, for example. Although that's just my opinion and yours might obviously be different. So you better believe it when I say I love dudes who enjoy gaming in orbit, because that's something that two Za enjoyers can truly bond over. Now you might be thinking,
Everybody enjoys playing games. Ain't nothing special about it.
I'd have to respectfully disagree, because it takes a certain level of power to really sit down while blasted and focused on a video game, cause honestly, most of the time it ends up going something like this. Finally time to play some Elden Ring whilst blasted. This is about to be crazy fun.
20 minutes later.
Man, screw this, I'm gonna just watch some TikToks. As you can see, it's not that easy, but if you have a friend who's on the same planet as you and you going through the struggle together in a co-op game, it's much easier to get into. So I for one will always have a special place in my heart for dudes who can actually game while blasted, cause honestly, it's not as easy as you might think, especially if the session lasts over 1 hour. But time for the productive and successful Not gonna lie, these dudes are like a rare Pokemon that you might never come across because the requirements to be a dude like this are rather high, but the power he possesses is godly. This the dude that has his own business or works like a sales job or something, which is a highly social and time-consuming practice. But somehow this mofo has done all of this while frequently bugging off the Zaza. He's kinda like the Wolf of Wall Street, but instead of doing lines off a lady's you know what I mean. He's out here taking a fat rip and then minutes later closing a massive deal with some company. I met a guy like this only once, and I won't stand here and act like I was not in awe of this man's power. We were all just chillin', faded AF, when this guy got a phone call, and not just any phone call, it was some company he was trying to make a client for the company he worked for. And me being me, all I could think of was, oh shit, dude must be freaking out being that faded, having to deal with something like that. But no, bro calmly told us he'll be back in like 10 minutes, went to the other room and closed the deal, or at least that's what it seemed like. I swear, some people just have a godlike stress tolerance, cause man, I can be out here faded and get a call from my mom to pick up some groceries, and that shit will have me stressing out if it wasn't in my initial plan. I guess what I'm trying to say is, for 95% of people, if you high every day, you're gonna get lazy and content with your position in life. But there are people who can manage to pull off this lifestyle and still be successful, and god damn do I respect that. Although I'd imagine that if they weren't high all the time, they'd be even more successful. But hey, what do I know? Anyway, next guy on the list is the artsy dude. Now, this guy isn't exactly what you're thinking. And yes, I know you're imagining this painter who's always on about, bruh, you just gotta go with the flow. Let yourself be free and you'll find peace. Sorry, but what the fuck does that even mean? Although these guys can be cool, their gimmick gets old pretty quick. The dude I like is more of just a Chad who has a highly functioning imagination. Cause with a guy like this, you always have something to talk about, and they come up with some of the most interesting things. Plus, they're usually not just some hippie dude who enjoys saying shit that makes no sense and expects everybody to think he's deep cause he saw a quote on TikTok and it really resonated with him. He's more of the dude who'll say some master Oogway quote and explain how that funny meme actually says something deep about life, but then ended with, I don't actually know, I might just be too high. And I love that, cause sometimes a mofo is just too high and sees a deeper meaning in something that doesn't have one. But hey, that's just a theory, a high theory. Smoking alone. It's a lot different than smoking with a group because, well, you're alone, so it's exclusively your job to explore those high thoughts and piece together fun activities to enjoy the high. And if all goes well, you'll have a blast, scrolling shorts, playing games, watching movies, pondering the scale of the universe and how nothing actually matters. It's great! But it comes with a catch. You see, when you're with a group of friends, it's much easier to stay on subject and destroy the evil thoughts the grass might curse you with. So, in my experience, when I'm getting high alone, I usually smoke a bit less just cause being super mega high is 99% of the time best enjoyed with a group and not by yourself. Unfortunately, when I was a youngster, I hadn't discovered this. In fact, I accidentally got the highest I'd ever been up until that point. And the demons I faced that night made me who I am today. The story begins with a high schooler CBD bro who had planned a great adventure with the main homie Salamander and Ricky. Well, not a great adventure per se. We were gonna go to Salamander's place on Friday night and get absolutely obliterated off that Zaza. And for that, I had secured a whole gram of that exotic the Friday before. And although very tough, I fought the urge to blaze for a whole week just so we could demolish it all together in one night. And if you watch some of my older videos, you know Salamander had a bit of a funky home situation, so a lot of times his house was completely free, and this was supposed to be the case on this beautiful night as well. So you know your boy was excited as an 8-year-old on Christmas for this upcoming Friday night high extravaganza. But it all came crashing down when Salamander texted me, "Hey yo, my parents came home tonight and well, they found my bong, so I'm basically in the gulag now, so no smoke sesh tonight, nor probably the next night, nor, well, until they leave again. See you once I serve my time. LOL. A true tragedy. Our plans have been foiled by none other than Salamander's stinky old bong. But I think you guys can see where this story is going. I had a whole gram of that fine exotic grass, and I've been holding myself back for a whole week in anticipation for the now cancelled high extravaganza. So here I was, standing in my shitty little dorm, filled with sorrow. I decided, screw it, I'ma just smoke alone. So I put my level 99 J-rolling skills to use, and after about 15 minutes of fumbling the spliff, I had done it. I rolled a J that was intended for free people, and headed outside to smoke it all by myself. After heading out, I went to my favorite park bench that was just outside the dormitory territory and started chipping away at the abomination I created. 1 puff, 2 puffs, 3 puffs. I was faded than a hoe, but nowhere near the fadedness I had been waiting for. I continued puffing away until I reached the halfway point and my mouth became drier than the Sahara Desert, bro. So I took a little break to try to figure out how high I truly was. As I stared into nothingness for a good minute, I felt my first person camera slowly pull away into third person, like I was in GTA 5 or something. And I have no shame in saying I didn't smoke the whole thing, cause I was starting to get a bit paranoid, so I took my half-smoked 1G spliff and headed back to my dorm. And bro, you know those creepy pictures that are creepy because they look familiar, like it's just a normal pic, but then you really look at them and realize they ain't normal? Yeah, well, that's how I felt when I walked through the hallway leading to my room. But anyway, once I got to my room, I was still feeling paranoid. Like, it was weird cause I had never felt that way before from Za, and I think that's just cause when you get high with others, you're kinda comforted by the fact that you're not alone in the feeling of being absolutely smacked out of your mind. Thankfully, I did find some comfort in my favorite platform, YouTube. So I started watching some good vibey videos and slowly snapped out of my paranoid state, but was instantly greeted with a new problem. An uncontrollable sensation that if not satisfied will drive you right back to where you started. I'm talking of course about the munchies. So I gathered my strength and started walking to the closest store, and once I arrived, well, I ain't even gonna lie, my wallet was at the mercy of the Za, bro. So basically every food item I saw, my brain went, bro, see those Twinkies? That shit looks bussin'. Yeah, I know, but it's $4 and I already got like $25 worth of stuff in my car.
Nah, bruh. Screw all that. You buy this fucking bag of Twinkies or I'm giving you a panic attack right here, right now, bro.
Okay, I'll buy the Twinkies.
Yeah, of course you will. Well, while you're at it, take that cheese sauce for the nachos too.
Okay, I will. After my brain finished ganking the shit out of my wallet, I went back to my room and started demolishing everything I bought. And after that whole munch sesh, I was feeling a lot less high too, but also my stomach was a bit upset, so I took a massive dump, laid down on my bed, and started scrolling shorts. And I scrolled and scrolled until I passed out without even brushing my teeth and still in my clothes. So you can imagine the next day, I had a bit of a kush hangover, feeling like Shrek, haziness, and overall being slower mentally, but hey, no regrets, cause my brain wasn't lying about those Twinkies, goddamn. High in the sky going 600 miles per hour. What can go wrong?
Hello, valued customers, Captain speaking. We'd like to apologize for the delay. We got word that one of our passengers is smuggling Schedule 1 narcotics on the plane, and we have informed the local authorities who should be escorting the man out right about now.
Alright then, scumbag. Empty your bag right now. I can smell the narcotics on you.
Officer, why? I don't have any narcotics on me. I just ate a legal hemp gun.
Oh shit, he's got a gun! That was a close one, but don't worry, folks. The situation has been handled. We'll get a crew to body bag this son of a bitch. Oh, sure, you also dropped your bag of flour. Anyway, carry on. Highway to the danger zone.
Well, turns out quite a few things, but over the clouds there lies a rainbow so beautiful, it might just be worth it. Because as we all know, flying friggin' sucks, because unless you have an online university making you $1 million a day, you're gonna have to get used to paying Michelin star restaurant prices for tap water and the most disgusting food you'll ever taste in your life. And I promise you, bro, I'm not over exaggerating. The last flight of our US trip from JFK to London, me and RizX decided to pop a New York Lego brick blue rats Eddie just before we got to the airport, so we were faded both at the airport and the first half of our flight. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. This was my first ever time flying high, and yes, this might be a shocker for some of you guys.
CBD bro isn't smoking that Qui-Gon Jinn Vietnamese Phillips head runs 24/7? Unsubscribed!
And although that might be true, just know, this shit ain't nothing to me, man. I smoke real Amani Cuban rapscallion ghost nuggets. I'm him. I've been him. I will continue to be him. Just got my DNA test back. Turns out I'm 100% Himalayan. So basically, I never saw a need nor really had the opportunity to be faded on an airplane. Mostly because 90% of my flights have been 2 hours or shorter, and 2 hours of sitting on the Boeing GTS bucket seat ain't that bad. Well, if you're flying Frontier, it'll probably be like 5 hours because the fucking delayed there. Anyway, as we woke up in the morning in Flushing, New York in a $250 per day shitbox of a hotel at the end of our trip, completely exhausted and a bit depressed from having to go back home from our grand US adventure, we looked at our only 25% consumed $30 bag of Eddies and thought, man, this is all really gonna go to waste. Unless we... I'm gonna stop you right now. We're not risking jail time for 15 bucks worth of Eddies. Man... Nah, you're right. But, what if we just ate it all before the flight? After Googling and Redditing for 20 minutes, we were pretty confident that being high on an airplane isn't a big deal as long as you don't take any za with you. So we ordered our Uber to JFK and now we were on our way to the airport, discussing how much should we take. And although I at first thought of taking the whole bag was 500 mgs, so $250 per, which my tongues was at the point where 50 effed me up, so we decided on 100 to avoid. Would you like some snacks or any drinks, sir?
No, thank you.
Can I offer you any snacks or any drinks, sir?
I'll have, M&M's.
We arrived at the airport and ate our Eddies just before going in. It took us about 10 minutes to get to the security line, which had us a bit paranoid because the line was pretty long, and for our calculations, the Eddies should be kicking in about 20 to 30 minutes. Thankfully, we were able to unload our bags before they hit, and RizX was the first one through with no problems. He got his bag and was waiting for me on the other side when...
You're good to go, sir. Enjoy your flight.
Next. Are all your pockets empty, sir? Yes,
Walk on through then, sir. Yeah.
The Eddies had shown themselves just before I went through the body scan, but thankfully I got through that just fine. The problem was, unlike RizX whose bags were cleared instantly, mine were not. They were sent to the manual inspection, which I knew for a fact I had nothing to hide, but because I was slowly but surely descending into madness, all I could think about while I was sitting there with the other people whose bag needed to be checked was, how long is this gonna take?
Shit, I hope I don't have anything.
No, I know I don't.
Do I?
Yes!
What?
I was bugging out. Not because I was smuggling anything, but because I was slowly but surely getting higher and higher, and was starting to question if I had accidentally left some weed in my bag, maybe, I don't know. Thankfully, after about 20 minutes, I got my bags, and we were able to leave security. Finally. And I thought that the hard part was over, but it was just beginning. Let me introduce you to the worst food place I have ever experienced in my 21 years of life on planet Earth. Let's call this establishment Trust Burger. Even though my expectations for airport food are extremely low, and I mean massively so, the experience there literally opened my eyes to how shit a food place can actually be. I arrived there 1 hour before boarding, and from the first glance, I knew what I was dealing with was truly a Michelin star worthy establishment. There were 4 workers there, each with a designated task, and each one of them was really pouring their heart into it. The first worker was at the counter, and she was really well trained because she was working there in a completely new way. Instead of taking orders and answering customer questions, she positioned herself near the back of the counter, close to the kitchen, obviously to provide the best service possible somehow. Oh, but the kitchen workers were even more professional. They were so good at their jobs that although there was 4 of them, only one of them was working. And I'm assuming the others were there for quality control. Now, normal folks like myself and you would think that having a line of people waiting for their food with angry faces would make these guys rush. But no, what we were dealing with were truly smooth operators. Even in the face of controversy, with all eyes on these 5 workers, however much the customers tried to get it out of them, they refused to muster up even one singular fuck. And obviously, being that the person who was supposed to be taking orders was doing something else, mostly chit-chatting with other workers, everybody, including me, had to order from the self-service machine. And so I did. After ordering, I went to buy some Ruffles and M&Ms, and because I was bugging off the Cuban rapscallion ghost nuggets and had lost my sense of time, I went up to the counter to ask if my order was ready. Yeah, hello? Yeah, hello. Sorry, I'm just checking if my order is ready. I went away for a minute, so, just checking. I don't know. Okay. Well, do you know where I can find this out? It's only been 5 minutes, man. Okay. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I walked away from there high as balls and shamed. Shamed for asking if my order was ready. Now, at this point, I was basically starving to death. But how these guys had treated me, I was really scared of them spitting or even worse, jizzing on my burger. But after 20 minutes, I did get my order. And if you thought the service was bad, the burger itself was even worse. The thing was cold and dry as fush. It was so bad I literally had to consume the thing like a competitive eater. Every bite had to be hydrated with a sip of water, so the jizz burger would even slide down my throat. After eating it, I was also really paranoid of getting food poisoning. Not because the burger tasted bad, well it did, it tasted like dog shit, but it didn't taste like anything had gone bad in there. Just because I was obliterated, my brain was prepping for the worst case scenario. But now, it was time to find jizz in your Riz-X, and go to our gate. And that took about 10 minutes, and after that we started walking there together when we heard the speakers call out, Mr. Bro and Mr. Riz, this is your last call for flight 69420. I repeat, Mr. Bro and Mr. Riz, this is your last call for flight 69420. Please come to gate 69 immediately. Thank you. Run. Thankfully, we got to our gate and made it on the plane. And turns out there was plenty of freaking time because we still sat and waited for 30 minutes before the plane took off. Which that might have also been the reason why the guys at the gate looked at us like a bunch of bamboons. Looking back at it, it must have set off some alarms seeing 2 6'5" behemoths running at full speed holding their carry-ons on top their heads like they were running from a lion, but hey, at least we made it. But once the adrenaline wore off, I realized 100 mg was truly too much. I was fighting demons on that aerodynamic plane, and what made it worse was the flight attendants were all super posh and uptight. We were sat at the extra legroom middle aisle, and I swear it wasn't just a za. These motherfuckers were looking at us, judging our every move. Anyway, after sitting in silence and looking down at the floor for 30 minutes, we finally took off. And because it was an international flight, it was a massive plane. And as it was taking off, it made a lot of creaking and sketchy noises, which increased my tweak meter to almost maximum. I mean, it doesn't make sense physics-wise. How the fuck are those massive wings supported with just a connection to the body of the plane? Things were flopping like crazy, and however much I tried, I couldn't get the vision out of my mind that as soon as the pilot starts pulling up, one of those wings would detach and we would fly into the highway in front of the airport in a ball of fire causing the next 9/11. But we survived. What a surprise. I guess it was just a week. I did end up sleeping for 4 hours of our 10-hour flight, which was great. I'll leave it up to you though if you think it was worth it, as all the stress and anxiety did pay off very nicely as I watched Vikings and ate M&Ms for the rest of the flight with a smile on my face. We proceeded to touch down in London at 6 a.m. and slept for 4 hours at a McDonald's before catching our last flight home. The end. The 5 levels of being high. Now, I bet you've seen a couple videos on this topic, maybe even mine, but since almost a year has passed and my knowledge and understanding of the magic ring plant has grown tremendously, I thought it's about time to make the ultimate, definitive, most precise levels of high tier list on planet Earth. And to make it even more fun, for every level, I'ma be getting more high to give an accurate representation of what the level feels and sounds like. So let's get it started with Level 1. Microdosed. This is the level where you don't really feel anything per se, but you can tell something is different. You have a slight mood boost and your body might feel a bit more elevated. So like if your legs were sore, they'd probably be more sore now, but if you're lying on your bed, well, its comfortability is probably up about by 10 to 15%. Nothing crazy, but it is noticeable. This, however, isn't enough to give you the giggles, so that Amy Schumer comedy special will still leave you wondering if my vagina is actually comedy or just poorly done slapstick humor. And since I'm currently at this level, I can tell you it also has no negative side effects, so I can still do everything without worrying if I'm too high. Anyway, let's move on to the first exciting level, and that is level 2. I'm feeling it. So you're feeling it, eh? Well, me too. This is the level where that Amy Schumer special might actually forcefully steal a giggle or two from you, but not because it's actually funny, it's more like you're laughing at her rather than with her. Anyway, since you're now feeling it, you also might be feeling that movie a bit more, or that video game. Shit, you might be feeling your own jokes a bit more. Got you laughing at your own thoughts, fool. This is also the optimal high if you still got stuff to do. Well, to be honest, if you got stuff to do, probably better to not be high, but at this level, it's still definitely doable, just a bit more difficult. Another way to look at it is, this is the high the workers at Subway are usually on, although I have seen mofos way beyond this there too, but for the most part, this is optimal cause the loud hasn't got you moving slow-mo quite yet. As for me, I'm still able to read this script and pronounce my words just fine, so you probably can't even tell I'm high right now. But now it's time to get to the first level where a mofo can feel too high if he's not experienced. Level 3. Yeah, I'm pretty high. So here we are, pretty high. This is the point where, at least for me, doing anything besides leisurely activities is hard. Not impossible, nor undoable, but hard. If we take that Amy Schumer comedy special for reference again, as for some reason I like doing, it might just maybe have become funny, but you also realize you just high, so you turn it off and watch something else. Also, this is the first level where some thoughts might have become uncontrollable in the senses you just can't help but dive deeper into the fact that the bomb dropped on Hiroshima was almost 1,600 times less powerful than the Tsar bomb created and detonated by the Soviets in 1961 as a show of power to the US. But then you find out there's something called an antimatter bomb which could be even more destructive, but it's only a theory, but then maybe the US is developing it in Area 51 or something. Yeah, I think you get the point. But there is one sensation that is more powerful than your random thoughts, and that of course is the munchies. Coupled with the fact you're probably rocking some dry mouth right now, this in my opinion is the best level to be at if you're trying to stuff your face with enough trans fats to feed 50 hungry children. But you know, you already ate it also. Anyway, moving on to level 4. Faded beyond belief. This is the point where if you're not in a safe space, you kinda screwed. Well, not always, but at this level, it's become almost impossible to practice rational thinking. I mean, if you were diving deeper into that nuclear bomb stuff at the previous level, then this is a point where you might start actually believing you are Oppenheimer himself. This stage is really not the best if you're looking to focus on a movie or video game or really anything because, well, your attention span is at the mercy of the za, and to actually enjoy this high, you just gotta go with the flow. As for me, it's getting pretty hard to read the script. If I look at the words for long enough, they kinda look like some ancient Chinese hieroglyphs. But anyway, if you're an actual lunatic, maniac, psychopath, Zaza destroyer, and considering hitting that gravity one more time, then be prepared for level 5. Shadow Realm. I told you, bro, you gotta be a maniac to get to this level because the plane of existence you on now is so different from being non-high, you probably feeling and looking like a goddamn alien. I mean, bro, your eyes are so red and you feel so disconnected from your body that if you look in the mirror, you'll probably think, bro, is that really me? I'm so fucked up. Wait. Ah, shit, I'm in the Shadow Realm again, aren't I? And now that you realize you're in the Shadow Realm, you either stop the trip by going to sleep, or level unknown, exploring the Shadow Realm. This level doesn't require smoking more. All it really requires you to do is just go outside and explore the world that in many ways has become the upside down from Stranger Things. Cause at this level, rational thinking has been completely thrown out the window and your brain has reverted to factory settings as of when you were just born. So if you see a streetlight flickering, for example, if you were normal, you just think, they really should fix that. Compared to now,
Oh shit, bro. This is totally one of those slasher scenes where once I walk over the streetlight, he's gonna shift me up, isn't he? Nah, man, fuck this. I'm out of here. At least, I don't know, that's how it feels to me when I achieve the pinnacle of high and am wandering the world outside. I think most of us have worked a minimum wage job, and the most easily accessible ones usually involve the flipping of the patty some way or another. Like, I'ma keep it $1.50 with you. If you ain't work at a gas station or fast food place and instead opted for something like a hotel admin or a waitress at a cafe or even a lifeguard, you really got off easy. Cause as a youngster, your parents usually make you work at least once to teach you about hard work and dedication. But if you were out here bathing under the sun and only occasionally waved your finger like, you can't do that cause I might actually have to work then with all due respect, you probably ain't been through the struggles most of us went through. I worked at a gas station for a couple months and that was my first work experience. But to be honest, the gas station and fast food place are pretty much the same cause besides from the gas, it's really a fast food place for when all the good food spots are closed and now you have to settle for the 24/7 microwave gas station grub. But I ain't even gonna cap, I love making food, especially if I don't have to wash the dishes later, and that was the case in the good old gas station. Well, what am I complaining about then? Well, you see, the problem with all minimum wage jobs usually boil down to a misunderstanding between the manager or a person that's been working there for a long time and the guy who's there because his parents made him go or he couldn't find any other job. That's me. Because you see, in this world, some people actually believe that being a manager at some gas station makes you a successful individual with a firm hand whose commands must be obeyed. Or in my case, this bitch wasn't even the manager. In fact, she was working the same damn position I was. That being, do everything you're told and I'll pay you $10 an hour. Which really should be the title for every minimum wage job if you ask me. Anyway, although we were working the same position, she had been there for years. So, you know, she was teaching me the ways of the fine art of cleaning toilets, scrubbing floors, flipping burgers, and above all else, kissing every customer's ass. Which is fine. I knew what I signed up for and I took it like a man. Until I got to the end of my graveyard shift, and you know, I ain't even gonna front. I was being pretty lazy, or another way to say it, I was putting in minimum effort. But I mean, that's why it's called a minimum wage job, cause all you have to do is exert minimal effort, right? But this scallywag thought otherwise. There was 5 minutes left on my shift and she pulls up on me and asks me to stock the fridge. And in my head I'm thinking, why not? But I'll probably have to leave it half done anyway, cause my shift is almost over, baby. But then she hits me with the most stupid, hilarious, and kind of sad sentence I've heard in a long time. Once you stock the fridge, I might let you go home. Like, what do you mean might? I don't know if you've checked our name badges, but yours is titled the same as mine, that being slave for $10 an hour. Like, don't get me wrong, I ain't trying to shame anyone who's worked or working minimum wage. It's a struggle out here and everybody needs dough, and minimum wage jobs are really the only option if you don't have a degree or special skills. But this lady, well, I say lady, but she was my age, in fact we went to the same middle school, was bucking off some straight exotic for mouthing those words into existence. Like, I don't know what she expected me to respond, like, "Oh yes, thank you for your kindness, I will see to it that it is done, your madam." But I just said, I don't know what you mean by that, but my shift is ending in 5 minutes, and I'm going to be leaving in 5 minutes. And to that, she didn't respond anything, cause deep in her heart, she must have known what she said was dumb AF. Now, what we can take from this experience is some people can't accept reality, and instead try to project a false one in their mind. For her, she had been working at that gas station for a while, and was probably starting to feel like kind of a loser, but instead of saying to herself, okay, I'm not doing so good right now, but I sure as hell ain't gonna stay like this. I'ma work on myself every day until I get where I wanna be. She took the easy way out and told herself, man, life hates me. It's so unfair. All I can do is take out my bitterness towards it in my work by being a total douche to everybody and acting like I own the place. No, wait, practically? I do own the place. Yeah, I'm the big dog around here. So yeah, don't be that guy, for the good of others and also yourself, cause if you let yourself fall to that place, you're gonna be that grumpy adult, talking about how life has always been against you and how everything is so unfair towards you. And I don't think any of you wanna be that.
But that was just one of the gas station sweats I encountered, and she was a mere disciple. One with talent, yes, but it would be long until she could control her hatred. You see, there was another, one with much more control over her anger, but still working the same position. Yet, alas, she hadn't been working there for a mere 2 years. No. 30 was the time of service for her. And she wasn't actually that mean, she just took her job way too serious. But I mean, I can't blame her because everybody needs purpose in this life, and if your calling is to clean toilets and make hot dogs, then, well, gosh darn, you gotta follow it. The only problem was, this woman was pushing this job onto me like I wanted to be there. Talking about if you wanna make it here, you gotta do this and that. Like, no, I don't wanna make it here, I wanna make it out of here. Got me thinking of how different people see the world, cause someone like myself could be watching 8 Mile and seeing the scenes where Eminem is working minimum wage and think, man, I know he gonna make it out of there. He Eminem, the king of rap. This is just temporary. But she was probably watching it and thinking, oh my god, how lucky he is to be there. If he keeps this up for a year or so, he'll get a promotion and make an extra $1 an hour. God damn. So yeah, it's all about perspective and the type of person you are, but I think the saying, shoot for the moon, cause even if you don't get there, you'll land among the stars, can really help a lot of people, especially if you are young. You should follow your dreams, however crazy they might seem, cause I promise you, it's quite hard to fail if you never give up. Also, working minimum wage is fine, and if you wanna take a job like that super serious, that's cool. Just don't force that same attitude onto other people, cause most dudes don't see a place like that as the end, but as a way to progress to the actual place they want to be.